Good morning. I had to make you at least one video, and this is how to make coffee. So in the kettle, you fill it up with water. This has already started to boil, but it's okay. So you just put the water on the electric kettle, and then on the right there's a button you just push, and when you push it once, it will come up and it'll say set 205 degrees, and then it'll show you what temperature it's actually at, and it'll continue to rise, and it'll hold it there until it gets 205, and then until you shut it off, or I think it has an automatic timer after a while, but it's better just to go ahead and shut it off when you're done. After you get the water going, take the lid off of the grinder, the top, and the scales are underneath the Chemex, and then just push over on the right, you push the on button. In the drawer right below where you'll be standing next to the stove are filters, as well as different coffees. Set the filter aside for a moment, and I'll show you what to do with that. But the first thing is you can go ahead and grind your beans. So the simple rule is 16:1 ratio. So if you want just a cup of coffee, for instance, you can do 20 grams of coffee, and you'll probably brew it not in the big Chemex, but in the smaller V60. Exactly the same method of brewing, it's just a smaller container, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to do 40 grams in the Chemex, and then I can tell you how to do the V60 later. So let's do 40 grams of coffee. Doesn't have to be exactly right on 40. You can take a couple beans out and make it whatever. So this is 40 grams. It's over on the right. And then just take it, and it's real convenient to put it in this and then pour it into the grinder. There's a knob on the right. It's already preset as far as the grind fineness. And then you'll turn it on, and it'll probably get loud on your phone. I promise that'll be the worst part of the video. You grind it until you can hear a change where it's not grinding anymore. It'll seem fairly obvious, I think. Meanwhile, while you're doing that, you can actually take the Chemex, put it on the scale. It does not matter what the temperature reads right now. I'll get to that in a moment. The filter, this one's rounded. Some of them are actually square. It does not matter. But there are 4 little folds to this, so it's actually one big circle. It's kind of cool. You can use it for art stuff. But it's folded. It comes that way. So you just take the very outside, and just put your hand in there, and then squeeze the bottom of the cone. And so you have 3 on one side and 1 on the other. I put the 3 on the pour side. It just strengthens it a little bit more when you get ready to pour the coffee or bring it out. So just stick the filter in there. At this point, it says 205 degrees. It doesn't matter if it's all the way up on your kettle or not. You want to wet the filter is the idea here. just to get any impurities out, as well as to help the coffee to adhere to the filter a little better and be ready to pour. So once that kind of filters through, you can kind of shake it around a little bit and then just pour the excess in the sink. The filter will actually stay on. If you've poured it well around the edge, it'll adhere to that. If it falls out, it's fine. Just pick it back up and stick it back in. At this point, you'll take the coffee, take it out, and just give it a couple taps. It kind of knocks all the edges down. Pour it into the filter. You don't have to set the scale for this one, but if you forget how much coffee you ground, which occasionally I've done, you can, before you pour the coffee in, you can tear it out, T-A-R-E, tear, on the right, just push it and it'll zero out. And then when you pour the coffee in, it'll tell you that how many grams it is. It would say 40 if I had done it this way this time. After you pour the coffee in, tear it out so it's sitting at 0, okay? And then you can take a little spoon, which they make, but I just take my finger and I make a little divot in the middle of the coffee, because that's where we're going to pour the water. So you take the kettle. This is a gooseneck kettle, so it pours evenly and allows you to pour more slowly. And then you just ever so slightly just tip the kettle, fill that hole with water. Meanwhile, the grams continue to go up. Remember I said it's a 16-to-1 ratio. So if we're doing 40 grams, you can do this on your calculator on your phone if you want to, but 40 grams is 640 grams of water. So there's 2 different pours. This is the first one, and just you go really slowly. What we're doing here is waking up the coffee. It's getting the grounds wet, and actually what's happening here, it's usually around 125 to 150 grams that you'll see, and then you just stop and set the kettle back on, and it'll continue to reheat until you turn the base of the kettle off. But you can see these bubbles. That's actually oxidizing, and so once we opened up the bean by grinding it, then the water is actually releasing not only oxygen, but it's also allowing flavor to be infused into the coffee better. So you wait for that to drain just a little bit. You'll see it dripping down and starting to fill the bottom of the Chemex. And usually what I'm most told is that when it looks kind of muddy, so the water's kind of drained, it looks like it's kind of almost a consistency of fudge batter or something like that, or brownie batter. It's just about there. And it's not a precise science, but you kind of get the idea as you go. And when you pour, you want to pour from the middle, kind of swirl out. So that's the first pour. There's 2 pours. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I think it looks fine. So on the second pour, start in the middle. And you can actually go a little bit faster here. But see how I'm just kind of swirling out around. Maggie taught me that the water going in should be as fast as the water going out. So you're fine really at any kind of steady meandering kind of pour is fine. The goal is just to keep all the grounds wet. Now you can also take a spoon and kind of stir them up. I hardly, if I ever do that, it's probably the more proper way to do it. But I usually skip that step. So you just keep pouring water in. Right now we're at 400 grams. We're going to go up to 640. I told you about the Chemex, and then I also mentioned this guy, which is the V60. It's exact same process, exactly, except you set this on a cup, on your cup. You would use 20 grams of coffee, and there's a slightly smaller filter, which you'll see. Everything else is exactly as I told you. So you would use 20 grams, which is 320 grams of coffee, which is 320 grams of water if you're going to use the smaller V60. It extracts the coffee out to the sides as well as the bottom, so you get a slightly different flavor. But other than that, it's just the same. So I usually make 40 grams, and then I put it into a carafe. I'll show you here in a second. So that's 642. Nothing, it's fine. It's close enough. Then usually I will take, once it's poured all the way through and it stops dripping, I often put it in, to keep it warm, I'll put it in one of these thermal containers, the excess of what I don't drink right away. So you could actually, if you wanted to drink coffee throughout the day or whatever, I know you said you're drinking a lot of tea, which is great. You may not even use this video, but at least you get to watch it. So a lot of times you can pour in your coffee cup when you have excess. You can pour it in your coffee cup to keep it hot and let it set. It kind of warms your cup. Or if you want to put it in the carafe, you can do the same. And then it also cleans it out. Cleans it out a little bit if you used it the previous day. But you can just let it set until you're ready to pour the coffee in. So it's going to continue to extract. I don't know, I kind of poured this one a little quicker, and so it should look fairly neat in the way it's extracted. This looked like it's maybe a little over extracted, but again, those are all subtleties that make the coffee just a little better here or there. So then you get your favorite cup. I will get this Colorado tin cup. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's newer and I like it. And again, you can, if you want to preheat your cup, that's great. This didn't have a lot of water in it, so it's pretty hot. That's why it kind of spewed. It's never happened to me before. Set it back on the base, then you just push it one more time and it's off, and you'll know it's off because it goes black. So you've got this preheating, you've got your carafe preheating. Again, those are just extras. You don't have to do those things. So now once your coffee's done, and it's nearly there now, just pick it up. There's a wooden base around this to keep you from burning your hands. If you jiggle the coffee around a little bit, it's just good to mix it in this larger carafe. You don't have to do that when you use the smaller V60. And I usually just carry the whole thing to the trash can in case it drips a little bit. And then trash is under the sink, if you remember. And then just toss that in the trash can all in one swoop. And then you can swirl that a little bit. Make sure you remember to pour your water out. And then pour your coffee in. It's probably hard to see in this particular video, but that's a nice caramely color. Coffee should never be black. It should always be brown or caramel colored, even if it's a really bold coffee. But that's the way real coffee is made. So, I hope it's been informative, if not helpful. Love you a lot. Hope you enjoy coffee. Bye.